Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Monday, January 27th, 2025, and today we are going to be talking about elections that have already taken place in the 2025 election year. We've been talking long about how these upcoming special elections and inevitable gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey will be early indicators of the resistance or lack of resistance against Donald Trump's second administration. The 2025 elections, very similar to that of 2021 and 2017, will likely receive a lot of media attention. That's because in years past, when these elections have taken place, for example, Virginia's gubernatorial race in 2021 and New Jersey's gubernatorial race, New Jersey Democrats won by 3 after winning the state by 15 in 2020, and Republicans flipped the governorship in Virginia after Democrats won the state in the presidential by 10 points. That 2021 indicator was an early sign that Biden and the Democratic Party would inevitably lose the next midterm and presidential election. In 2017, what did we see? Well, we found that the Virginia race went overwhelmingly to the Democratic Party, and the governor's race in New Jersey even more solid and a significant swing from the 2013 counterpart. What did that predict? That Biden or any Democrat would have, in theory, beaten Donald Trump and won that election. Then moving back to 2013, what did we see? Massive overperformances for the Republican Party in Virginia's legislative elections, and then in the New Jersey governor's race in 2013, a massive victory for the GOP. What happened 3 years later? Donald Trump was elected president. And so a lot of people are looking at these early election signs because more often than not, they are the early indicators of the movement against incumbents and whatever it might be. It's not a perfect science. 2009 was a phenomenal year for the GOP, and 2010 an even better year for the GOP. But still, at large here, what we're seeing is that right now, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are looking to elections that are taking place now and will continue to take place as an indicator of what might happen next. So I'm sure you can tell from the title of this video that we are going to be talking about where Democrats might have some hope, where they might be able to look at this and say, this is, at least right now, results that they want to see in the absence of Donald Trump on the ballot. If you remember back in the 2024 presidential election, a number of states shifted to the right, but very notable ones included states like Virginia and New Jersey, two states that are going to have governor election results this cycle. Now, New Jersey ended up narrowing down to the exact same margin as Virginia, off by less than half a point, which is insane to think about given the millions of investments into Virginia and the no investments at all into New Jersey. Ultimately, two of these states in 2020 were double-digit Biden states, Biden winning New Jersey by nearly 17 points and Virginia by over 10, and yet now they fall in line as 5-point states for Kamala Harris. But the question is for Democrats, looking at the 2024 election results, is it just that voters were loyal to Trump and not necessarily Republicans at large? And so Democrats recently won official control of the state house after they won their elections in the Virginia House of Delegates race in District 26. They also won the Virginia Senate election in District 32. Now, the composition of power did very much hang in the balance of these legislative races. Both of them very solid Democratic seats, but it is the question of margin when there is no turnout venue from Biden, Harris, Trump, whoever. This is what we look at for off-cycle elections. Is there an early pushback against Donald Trump? Now, in terms of national approval, my short answer to you is no. Donald Trump is at a high approval rating. His job approval rating is the highest it has ever been, and his favorability rating is the highest it has ever been either. Not to say it's necessarily phenomenal for the favorability rating. It's roughly even with that of disapprove, but the approval rating is in the positives, in some cases, the positive double digits. And so it's not those moments that you start to see pushback from the American public on decisions Donald Trump makes. It's not moments like those where you see people marching in the streets against decisions made by the Trump admin, by executive orders, by the Supreme Court. It is only in moments where a president is uniquely unpopular that a massive opposition takes place and forms and turns out in elections that largely seem of no consequence after a very major one. And so when it comes down to these Virginia races, there's a glimmer of hope here. I think that's the best way to put it, because of the fact it's not guaranteed victory like we saw in 2017. Those were really good signs for Democrats. And granted, it is early, right? 8 years ago, we might have seen different analysis had I had a YouTube channel talking about it, but 2017 felt very different than this time around does. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Trump won the national popular vote for the first time ever. There's 20 million more new voters in this cycle, or not 20 million, but, millions of more new voters voters in this cycle, and Donald Trump, in fact, expands nationwide to 77 million. So it's all of these different questions here, and a lot about turnout and whether or not the Republican Party is retaining many of these Trump voters, and I think we're starting to see some early signs here. Now, I'm jumping around tabs here. What we need to look at first is the Virginia House Delegates race in District 26. Now, the legislative elections here are ones that people are also going to look at because it's 51-49 right now in the House of Delegates, which means that really it is a toss-up. Anybody really can win the chamber in the next cycle. But the good news for Democrats thus far is that the only special election that has taken place in the House of Delegates races since Trump has been elected, and one of the only major state legislative races that we have seen across the nation thus far into after Donald Trump's victory, is this individual district where the Democrat won 62.6% of the vote, 61.6% of the vote to 38.4. Now, this election in particular is interesting because back in 2024, Kamala Harris won 57% of the vote in this district. So on this metric alone, it's an improvement for Democrats. In fact, we can take a look. There's a really good visualizer here. This is the website. You can find the 2024 presidential election results broken down by the congressional districts in Virginia. If we're looking down for the 26th district, Kamala Harris here, if we can go ahead, 26, here we are, matching it up. Actually, it wasn't 57, but it was 59-37. So this is roughly, on par with that of what the Democrats saw, except Democrats are slightly expanding where they are, meaning that the overall net support here is, in fact, increasing. Regardless, though, if this was, for instance, an election at which, many Republicans are saying because of Trump's high approval that there will be even more Republican advancements, they'll gain in the House, they'll gain in the Senate. Those are things that rarely and, almost never happen in a presidential election. What we saw in 2022 was the closest to it, where Biden was able to minimize some of the losses because Republicans had such poor candidates across their competitive races here. But even then, Biden lost 10 seats, right? Even Obama lost 63 seats and went on to win re-election. So just because a president has a high approval rating or is liked by the American public does not necessarily mean Republicans will make improvements. And this is a good example of that. If we also take a look, too, at the next race I want to look at, which is the state Senate race, what do we see here? If we pull it up on the screen, 32nd district here, this race here went to the Democrats in a recent election. It was a race that Democrats didn't necessarily think was going to be competitive by any metric, and obviously it was not. But when you take a look at the special election result, 61-38.6, nearly identical to that of the state House race. Well, what did the state Senate race look like in the 32nd district here? Kamala Harris got 59-37. When you jump over and take a look at this, 61-39. Again, roughly even, but again, Democrats are making that advancement, and there is no improvement for the GOP. So it shows here that, and especially given that Virginia is a state that Harris won by 5 points, the Democrats right now probably are on track to win back the governorship in the state of Virginia. Because they don't allow incumbents to run for re-election, it really doesn't matter that Glenn Youngkin is popular. We're seeing a number of new polls coming out with Abigail Spanberger up, sometimes 5 points, sometimes 10 points against Winsome Sears, who's the incumbent lieutenant governor. That actually does make sense, given that Glenn Youngkin is popular, because people aren't voting for Glenn Youngkin. Now, if there's a question about Youngkin running for Senate or a House race, that's an entirely separate question. But as of right now, the early indicators say the Democrats are roughly holding on to their support, if not minorly improving off of it. And in a state like Virginia, that does make a difference, because right now the first victories the Democrats are going to look for are victories in states like Virginia. If we remember back in 2021, Virginia went to the Democrats by roughly 8 points after going for Hillary Clinton by roughly 5 points. So it was a 3-point improvement, which wasn't massive to say that Democrats were on track for a landslide victory or were going to, do as well as they did in the House elections. It was the early sign that helped build the momentum to the 2018 victories in state legislative races and gubernatorial races in House election results. And that's the thing the Democrats are looking for. A 5-point victory in Virginia's governor's race after Harris won the state by 5 points. Sure, it's not an improvement, but it's something that shows that they're maintaining their support. But it would be interesting to look at it from the perspective of if Donald Trump is able to drive out voters in an off year and Democrats can't turn out their base because there is no, entirely mobilized group in opposition to Donald Trump, maybe that will make a difference. Maybe Donald Trump will see a negative impact of that, or Democrats will see the direct impact of that. All of these things are up in the air, but these early races do show a minor glimmer of hope for the Democratic Party. But is it enough to say that this will result in anything concrete? The answer right now is no. But we'll watch. We have elections coming up in Florida in the 1st District, April 1st. Another April 1st election taking place in Florida 6th. New York has to schedule their 21st District for Elise Stefanik. This actually has a university, so we'll be interested to see if, young voters are turning out at a higher rate in off elections, just in opposition to Donald Trump. It'll all be interesting, and we'll closely watch it in the 2025 election year. But as of right now, my small glimmers of hope for the Democratic Party. But is it how it was in 2017? The answer is no. But again, a lot of time, 1,400 more days of Donald Trump's second administration, a lot can change between now and 2028. So we'll focus on the immediate. We'll take a look at elections that are happening, that have already happened, extrapolate that, talk about that, build out what that means for the overall election cycle. But it'll be very interesting to watch over the next 4 years, and I'm excited for you guys to join me on the ride. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and a playlist for my 2024 post-election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.